This is topic B, page 159, analyzing pivot table data. Now that you've created your pivot table, you're ready to dive right in and crunch the numbers to gain the organizational insight that can help you succeed. As with all Excel data analysis tasks, creating and configuring effective pivot tables is a matter of asking the right questions to glean the necessary information. When working with pivot tables, this all boils down to structure. You already know pivot tables enable you to reorganize and reanalyze your data as many times as necessary to get all the answers you're looking for. But how do you translate your questions into a pivot table structure? Actually, it's relatively simple. Excel provides you with a number of different tools and commands you can use to organize the structure of your pivot tables. Knowing how these tools work and understanding how pivot table structures translates into actionable intelligence are the keys to getting the answers you seek. So in your pivot table field's task pane, the values field has a drop down arrow, as I showed you before when we were changing our number format, and we can open our value fields setting dialog box from here. Now this dialog box is for choosing the calculation that Excel will perform on the values and how to display the result of those calculations. So notice here I have two tabs here. I have summarize values by. This is where you'll choose your calculation, and then you also have your show values as, where this will show maybe a percentage of or grand total. So you do have two tabs here. Right now I'm taking the sum of my total sales. Suppose I wanted to see not the total cost of each product sales, but instead how many sales each product was involved in. So for that, I might want to use my count function. So I'll choose count from here and click OK, and that updates. Of course, I would probably want to take my currency formatting off of that. I can go into number format and just change that to general. So I have a count of how many transactions that each of my products was involved in. So cameras had a total of 183 transactions, desktops 182, laptops 183, and printers 182. And that gives me a grand total of 730 sales. So how could I verify that this was my total number of sales? If I go to my original data set on my data worksheet tab and go to the end of my whole entire worksheet here by hitting Control and End, I can see that I have 731 entries, 731 rows. Now I know that I have column headings at the beginning, at the top, using row 1. So that tells me that I have 730 entries here, or 730 transactions. So that pivot table calculation of grand total of 730 transactions is correct there, just to verify. Now suppose I revert back to the number of total sales, to the sum of total sales. Value field setting, change my function to sum, and click OK. But I didn't want to see the actual sales figures. Instead, I want to see the percentage in relation to the other products. So I want to see the percentage of the grand total. So in that sum, oops, lost my field settings. I just have to click back in to my pivot table. So I'm going to go back into my value field settings dialog box, and here I want to go to my show value as tab. And from this drop down you can show percentages. You can show a percentage of grand total, column total, row total, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to show this as a percentage of the grand total and click OK. So now I can see that cameras was 24.01% of the total sales. Desktops, 23.97% of total sales. laptops 26.42%, and printers 25.60%. So obviously that sums out to be 100%. Now if I added sales reps to my columns area, I can see that the sales rep of Allen sold 4.48% of cameras. Anderson sold 10.58% of printers. So I can look at my percentages from here as well. I can change from the grand total. Maybe I wanted to see it by row total. And that will update for me, giving 100% for each row total. So my cameras, 18.64% by Allen, 18.45 by Carter, and so on and so forth. All right, so you can choose to display your information in values or percentages as well. So you have many different options there. Our next video will be activity 5.2 on page 167.